As a reminder, last week we talked about the concept of grit. And the important aspects of grit are that it involves perseverance and passion, and that grit is associated with a growth mindset. Now, grit is also an individual trait.
І також, що стійкість це індивідуальна риса. Мгм.
So our challenge is to try to find ways of using the grit we develop to support our communities. And when we think about this, the English phrase, a rising tide lifts all boats, comes to mind. So what we seek to talk about today is how our own grit can be used to strengthen the capabilities of the people around us. And we'll also talk a little bit more about why that matters.
І також ми обговоримо, чому це важливо. Мгм.
So, one helpful way to engage a group of people in this sort of skill development is through the use of metaphor. In particular, healing metaphors involving nature can be helpful. It has been said that words are informative, but metaphors are evocative. Another phrase that I like in English is a picture is worth 1,000 words. And a picture is indeed, for example, on this slide here, the image is conveying a lot more than the words that are written or the things I am saying. And another reason that nature is important is because, like plants, um, we are in a human ecosystem, a social ecosystem. And we don't have leaves or flowers, but we must nurture the social connections in the same way that plants must be nurtured to grow. We also want to take a moment to acknowledge the guiding theoretical principles behind the work that we do. Three of the facilitators for this training have been trained through the Harvard University program in refugee trauma.
Три презентерів.
And the founder of that program, Dr. Richard Malika, who is pictured here, has uh, lectured on this concept of a healing environment. And in Dr. Malika's work, he has concluded that there is no healing without beauty. And the work of this program began specifically supporting refugees, but the focus has also expanded. Now, the program seeks to support anyone who is impacted by human-made or natural disasters.
І за
And so the healing environment concept is applicable to situations impacted by war. And Dr. Malika asserts that creating beauty and mimicking nature is part of our healing process as humans. He's also said the chaos of trauma takes away the inner experience of coherence. So the work for anyone in a helping position, and that could be teachers, doctors, politicians, etc., is to create external coherence. And because an important aspect of human coherence involves knowing the self in relation to another, connections between people is very important. But what we have talked about less, and what we want to talk about more now, is the importance of connections between people and the natural world. But first, anyone who has access to this slide presentation, we bring you gifts from the Harvard program. There are three different versions of this pocket card.
Є три
And they were created with HPRT faculty and our Ukrainian colleague, Valentina Bronkema, as well. And each one of the cards has a different focus, but they are all designed to be simple reminders of how to care for yourself and your communities. These reminders can be points of coherence when everything feels like chaos. And they are meant to be, cut out and just put somewhere that you can easily access them. So we've talked about a healing environment. It's important to define what that means. Typically, that is a physical space, but more and more we are learning to develop um, healing virtual environments. The task is to create environments that feel welcoming, safe, and predictable.
А,
And one of the ways that is accomplished is by the third point on this slide, the relationships that are created and maintained. Empathic partnership relationships help to create a sense of welcome and safety and predictability. And when these structures are created effectively, we begin to see positive outcomes. And positive outcomes helps to create trust within the community, but it also creates support from people who may regulate or even give money to programs. Trust within the community and support from outside of the community are two important factors that influence whether a program or environment can continue. And that is really important because part of a sense of safety and predictability is consistency. And when all of these pieces are in place, it creates a sense of value and appreciation and hope that is itself healing. And the last point, engaging with beauty and nature can inspire hope and altruism, and that's the world we seek to be in. So within the Harvard model, there is the acronym HEART, and Natalia, if you don't mind explaining that's what that means, yeah. And HEART is for the healing environments and restorative therapies, which are the practices which help sustain the healing environment. And over the past couple of years, as we've been working with groups like this, we have used Earth Day as an opportunity to apply this model. And so we seek to explain to you our hopes for this coming Earth Day in April. We will just briefly remind you of Bronfenbrenner's model because we have gone into greater detail in previous lectures on this topic. But simply put, this model of individual development is an acknowledgement that each person is influenced by many layers of communities and systems around them. And we invite you to consider the Bronfenbrenner model in the work that you do. Notice who is close to you and what those relationships represent. Think about the ways that the larger world and the bigger systems influence your life and how what you can do to bring those larger systems forces into your closer circles. For some people, religion is an example of a large historical system that has a very personal connection. Or maybe a small local group of people does something that is patriotic, and the patriotism is a local representation of a larger system. Or maybe you engage with a group of people in an activity that is using nature as a metaphor for healing, because we are indeed part of a natural ecosystem. And so we must acknowledge and utilize. And so the metaphor that we have been working with, are working toward is, you may remember this picture from last week. This is a mushroom harvester in the Carpathian region. And we are seeking to use a mushroom metaphor because of the um, unique interconnected nature of how mushrooms exist. The notion of interconnectedness is the opposite of isolation, disconnection, and dehumanization. We've talked in this lecture and in previous lectures about how those factors are significant contributing factors to bullying, suicidality, and violence of many kinds. But mushrooms don't just exist as a single plant. They are part of something called the mycelial network. So the mycelium is the sort of the roots of the system that form a web underground.
Yeah.
This underground network, which is always there, is really the plant itself. And the mushrooms that pop up are just like the fruit. There is more and more research being done on mycelial networks because they are fascinating. Network can communicate information and share resources throughout its whole network. It also can support other plants in its environment. And the
Doce.
environment can be multiple kilometers in size.
Mhm.
It is powerful enough to enable a tree that is mature and healthy to share nutrients with other trees that need some help. And so maybe you understand why we like this metaphor when we see that the mycelial network enables the older and stronger plants to support the next generation to thrive. Even furthering the metaphor, the network can communicate danger signals as well. The amount of information that can be communicated from one part of the network to another in support of that other part of the network has been equated to about 50 words of vocabulary. So if we are looking for a healing metaphor in nature, um, there's not much more inspiring and appropriate than this network. So we invite you to take one moment to breathe and notice how you're doing. We also offered you the notion that mushrooms can be symbols of hope. And as much as the healing environment concept revolves around physical space construction, we also uh, want to focus on the metaphoric and cultural construction. And speaking of hope, we think there are a couple of important things to say here too. And Natalia, would you mind just reading the slide here? Um, actions are like mushrooms. They are short-term indicators of something that is consistent. The other day, I was going for a walk around my neighborhood in the morning, and I walked by a restaurant that had a Ukrainian flag hanging in the window. And then, not too far down the road, I came across a place where someone had drawn hearts on the sidewalk with chalk. And something I didn't take a picture of was that a little bit further down, I walked past a tree that had a mushroom attached to it. Each of these examples exists for a short time. Particularly these two pictures, they indicate that networks of love and hope. And so we will seek to share with you in the next week a an activity that we hope you will join us in if you are able. wrap up today by just saying a few more words about our plan. But if you are able to join us next week, we will walk you through the specific steps and instructions for the activity.
Yeah. Mhm. I was just saying about that, like it will be different time for our meeting next time because they will be at the same time. It will be 7 hours. Mhm.
Perfect. Thank you. Um, so I've already said these things, so I'll just go past this. So in 2023, we did our first Earth Day activity with the Vela project. We can see Daria's class on the right-hand side. And so this year, we will seek to use mushrooms as a metaphor for community building. So actually, we'll get to that next time. For today, um, we hope that this has piqued your interest to participate with us next week. What we will do next week is share the instructions and then invite you to use the activity in your communities. We also welcome you to invite other people to participate as well.
Leave us.
Sorry.
That's okay.
For previous Earth Day activities, we have had over 1,000 people from all around the world participate. And so we will also share with you instructions for how to share your contributions. We will have a few weeks until Earth Day, so there will be time to think about how to do this activity. So we hope you will join us and share the good work that you will do.